Orientation.
Please, thank you.
Sorry?
Sorry, just checking we were recording. Sorry.
Welcome everybody to the Catholic Theological College Orientation Session for Semester 2. Welcome all our new students. We're going to go through a talk from a few different people today. First of all, College Master, Reverend Dr. Kevin Lenihan, will give you a welcome, an official welcome to the college, after which, hello? Oh, I heard something. After which Dr. Rosemary Canavan, the Academic Dean, will give us an introduction to the academic requirements. That'll be followed by Jude Caspers, our Learning Support Coordinator, will give you a quick tour through ARC and the learning resources available. Following that, Ms. Annalise Day, our librarian, will give us a talk on the library, and then we've got a couple of students giving a talk at the end. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Father Kevin to tell us about Catholic Theological College. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, John. Can I just put my computer glasses on so I can look you in the eye and not down my nose? Actually, that's much better. So hello, evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out on a cold night, wherever you are. Some of you I've met before in my previous roles as postgrad coordinator and inquirer and HDR inquirer. So it's really nice to actually see a couple of faces behind names that I've seen before. Thanks for joining us here. My job's just to give a general introduction to CTC and to make sure that you feel very welcome. It's an unusual time in higher education at the moment, as in any sort of education. And just today, our semester's been thrown into a bit of a different situation with Victorian restrictions persisting for another week and whatever beyond that. So it's a little bit of a stressful time in higher ed. But we're looking forward to both the opportunities and the challenges that brings to us. So it might be you've all muted yourselves. So thanks very much for that. That can just help us all to hear better. And let me share my screen to offer you a couple of slides as we go along. Now, please use the chat function and or unmute yourself and yell out if you've got questions or comments. Very happy to be interrupted as I go along here, so feel free to do that. Is that all okay? A couple of nods, thank you. So, where am I now? Sorry, I've come in at the tail end of that presentation. So here we are, CTC, Catholic University, which is a Catholic Theological College, which is a college of the University of Divinity. I'll say a bit more about that in a moment. The history of Catholic Theological College really lies in a combined effort, a collaborative effort back in the late 1960s, when the Archbishop of Melbourne of the day, Cardinal Robert Knox, invited all those different religious houses that were involved in the education of priests, so the different dioceses and the different religious orders in Melbourne. Archbishop Knox came to Melbourne in the light of the Second Vatican Council. He was a career diplomat and had been all around the world and was quite skilled in organisational management, as well as the theological vision of the Second Vatican Council, that great meeting of bishops of the world in the 1960s to sort of relaunch global Catholicism. So he came here really to try and implement the vision of the Second Vatican Council. And part of that was to invite people to work together as much as possible. So he invited those responsible for the education and training of priests to work together in order to share their resources, the resources of their staff, the quality of their staff, their library resources, their physical resources, their plant and operation, to open theological education beyond just those training for priesthood, but to all those who were interested in the theological disciplines. And this was very much responding to the Second Vatican Council's call for the active participation of all the baptized in the life of the church. And so Cardinal Knox was very concerned to make available here in, especially in the Archdiocese, but in Victoria, the resources of theological education and ministry training for for all the members of the church, not just those preparing for priestly ministry or religious life. And thirdly, to do that in an ecumenical context. And again, that was a call of the Second Vatican Council, that we should, where as much as possible, we should recognise and celebrate the common faith in Christ, our common baptism among the Christian churches, and also our common appreciation of the Christian tradition and of the riches of Christian theological and ministry contexts. So in each of these areas, the Archbishop of the day was very much trying to bring to expression in Victoria the vision of the Second Vatican Council for what Christian theology is about and how theology can help build up the life of the church. And so he brought together those, as it were, 10 theologates. Theologate means a college of theology. And so CTC, as it stands today, is a partnership between the 4 dioceses of Victoria plus the Diocese of Hobart, the Archdiocese of Hobart of Tasmania, and a number of religious orders who affiliate with CTC for the purposes of seminary training. So remember that this was a bringing together of the various religious houses that were training priests at the time, and you can see those 7 orders that affiliate with us. And so CTC is very much a corporate effort among the dioceses and orders that affiliate with us. They're our sponsoring bodies, our governing bodies. Many of these dioceses and orders provide clergy, such as myself as a teacher. Father Phil Gleeson's here from the Salesian Fathers. Father Max Vidola's here from the Archdiocese of Melbourne. I'm here from the Diocese of Ballarat. And so both orders and dioceses contribute teaching staff to the college and research staff, and as well as their students, as well as their moral support and governance for the life of the college. And I suppose, and the purposes of the college are expressed in our constitution, if you like. And just to say in a nutshell, we can put it this way: the college exists to promote study and research in theology and all its component disciplines. So biblical studies, philosophy, church history, ministry studies, pastoral care, spirituality, canon law, mission and ministry, religious education. There's a whole range of them, and history. I'm sure I've forgotten something. The minute you start to list them, one of the departments gets upset that I've forgotten them, and so across all those areas, CTC provides both academic learning and also a higher level research in all of those areas. Part of our ministry is for the education of the ordained ministers, future ordained ministers of the church, but also for those many other ministers, people who minister in parish life, in institutional settings, in hospitals, in prisons, in schools, in various ways. By doing that, to contribute more broadly to the spread of the gospel and to the presence, the engagement of the Christian gospel and of the Catholic worldview with the society in which we live. So, according to the Second Vatican Council, theology isn't to be an inward-looking activity, but is very much a work of engagement with the culture, the world in which we live, and that's been very strongly emphasised by all the popes, but by this Pope Francis in particular, that theology is one of the ways in which the Church enters into the lives and the imaginations of every culture, of every place, those near to the Christian tradition and those far from the Christian tradition. And within all of that, to empower people, to empower all the baptized for pastoral service in the work of the contemporary world. And so we have in the college community people who come for studies for a variety of reasons. Some are training for priesthood, some are training for other ministries in the church as lay people, some are training for religious life, some are training for the permanent diaconate, for life as an ordained deacon, permanent deacon, perhaps a married deacon in the life of the church. We do all that, and responding to that call for our study to be within an ecumenical context, when those 10 theologates joined together in 1970-71 to create Catholic College at the time, Catholic Theological College, the college then joined a broader ecumenical theological federation that had existed in Melbourne since 1910, a college known as the Melbourne College of Divinity, which by affiliation with the University of Melbourne granted degrees in divinity, in theology, since 1910. As you recall, public universities in Australia back in colonial days were not allowed to have theology faculties due to the sectarian arguments of the day. And so provision was made with government support to establish divinity colleges or divinity schools for the training of the clergy of various denominations alongside those public universities. So the University of Melbourne has those various residential colleges around College Crescent in Melbourne, and often the background of those would be residential ministry denominational training colleges back in the day. The Melbourne College of Divinity became a university in its own right in 2012, and that's been reaffirmed again just recently. So it belongs to one of the Category B universities in Australia. That is, it's not a publicly funded university, but students are eligible to apply for government support through Austudy and Fee Help to fund their studies with us. We don't get Commonwealth supported places up front like a public university would, but students can apply for study assistance for their studies. The Melbourne College of Divinity is quite a remarkable thing. It's the oldest continuing ecumenical educational organisation in the world. If you're familiar with ecumenical life, 1910 was the year of the Great Edinburgh Conference, which really launched the modern ecumenical movement, one of the great meetings of the 20th century in Christian terms. And it was from that very year that this federation comes together to grant degrees in divinity right through to the PhD in divinity right from that early time. So it's quite a remarkable phenomenon in itself, and wonderful that since the 1970s, 3 Catholic colleges have been part of that federation of colleges. I can probably show you a list of them here. Keep pushing the button, Kevin, and you'll get all the information. There they all are, various churches, most of them based in Melbourne, one of them based in Adelaide, one of them based in Sydney. Happy to give a bit more information about that as we go along. Yeah, so the university has a set of graduate attributes, and you can see what they are there and read more about them on our website. We don't need to worry about the building since we're not going to be there for quite a while. We'll talk a bit more about this as we go along, but all of us come to the college for a variety of reasons, and you're coming. Some of you have been in contact with us for a number of years now, but you too are coming. So that's an important part. We can provide the academic programs, we can provide the research setting. None of it would be possible without the good services of the Mannix Library, which provides a fantastic academic and research base for us, and you'll hear a bit more about the library later in this session. But the other side of all that, we can offer what we like, but the other side of that is what you bring and your reasons for coming to study, the life experience that you bring, and the life experience that you are seeking for, whether it's to deepen your own faith development, whether it's to sort out some of your questions about God and faith and religion, whether it's to strengthen your skills for ministry in parish life or as a parent or as a catechist in your church community, whether you're investigating a call to a deeper vocational life in some sort of religious life or in some sort of lay vocation within the church. You bring all that. Some of you might be straight from school, some of you might be pushing into your 80s and still ready to begin study, and we have people in all those positions. So that's an important element. When I talk about the college to people and talk about the approach of CTC, I tend to talk about 3 things, 3 C's. I tend to say that our approach at CTC, our approach to the theological tradition is critical and creative and caring or compassionate. It's critical, not in the sense of negative, but in the sense of bringing all our intellectual faculties of analysis, of inquiry, of searching for meaning, of faith-seeking understanding. It's critical, it's creative in as much as it's constructive and tries to make the links between the Christian tradition and the world around us, the life of each person and the world around us in the light of the gospel. And it's compassionate or caring, that is, its focus is to put into action the gospel of mercy and love that Jesus makes available to us, and to do that in a way that's deeply personal, that pays attention to the spiritual dimension of each person's life, even if that's unexplored by themselves, that we recognise and honour that spiritual dimension. The religious dimension combines what is most deeply interior and personal to us and what is most public and lived out about our life. And so in a way, it's one of the richest areas, and that's why, you know, those it's often linked to those journeys or quests for the great things, for truth, for goodness, for beauty, for communion. The religious quest links us to what is most deeply ourselves and what is most deeply engaged in the life of the community, in the life of the world. And so it's a rich and deep resource that I think those ideas of critical and creative and caring sort of bring together. So I'm happy to, John, I'll hand back to you, and you might just introduce us as we go around, as we go along today.
Yes, so so we have in my top left-hand corner, it's probably different for everybody, isn't it? Rosemary Canavan, the academic dean, and there's a few more people you'll hear speaking today, but we might throw straight to Rosemary now, because tertiary study is quite a complex thing, and Rosemary is going to take us through, just give us a bird's eye view of some of the issues and how you go about them. Thanks, Rosemary.
Wait a second. You know how it is. You have to get it going. So welcome everyone. And my task is to talk about academic information, which I'm sure if I was to read all of the academic information, we'd be here till midnight and you'd be all asleep. But there are some critical things that I'll talk about today, but a lot of the information will unfold as you take your journey, because learning is truly a journey, and this academic information gives you some of the supports and tools to make that journey. Some further things will be added by lecturers. You'll be directed often to our website as well. But here's a few things. Kevin has already mentioned our graduate attributes, and these are the attributes that we expect that our students would have as they complete with us. So it's good to understand that we consider these for everything that we teach and that you study while you're here. And these, as you can see, are also embraced beyond the actual content. So the learning, articulating, communicating, engaging, and serving does things so that you are equipped for critical study, so that you are prepared for the service of others, to engage with diverse views, etc. As you read through these, you will see often in your study, and should reflect upon them as ways of understanding how you are formed in your study beyond passing a mark or a grade or a particular piece of information. It's about the person as well as the content. So attendance, now this sounds really funny for me to be talking about attendance while we're all locked down, but attendance is important because so much of our study is connected synchronously, whether online or face-to-face. So it's required online. Any student missing 2 classes or not logging into ARC will be reported to me or to Phil. And the reason for that is because we don't want you to fall behind. It's not something that's punitive. It's because we care. So we understand that if you miss more than 2 sessions, you are likely to fall behind. So you can catch up with materials, but we want to be sure that we know how you're going and whether anything is disrupting your study, that we can be of assistance. Advising your lecturer if you're unwell or unable to participate. That's your first stop, and that way they're also on track with you to help and to offer assistance or resources or whatever you might need to go along the way. And no, things do happen, and we'll talk about some of those things, about special grading assistance and support plans and all sorts of things to help people along the way if they do have issues. No, things happen. We've learned that so much in these days of COVID. Study skills. Now you'll be hearing really more about the support of tutors and study skill sessions with Jude as our learning support coordinator, but please don't feel that you are on your own. We understand, lecturers understand, and the college understands that that you need to be able to access study skills. So this is part of the academic world that you're in here at CTC. Academic integrity. Now this is a very important part of our whole business, and it's not only for CTC but for the University of Divinity. It incorporates everything about the way we deal with each other, and it's not only about students, it's about staff, it's about all of us. So it's a very large, long policy, but particularly in your dealings with your writing and study skills, it's particularly about paying attention to making sure that you acknowledge the sources and the people that you use, whose work you are using. For each of your assignments, whoops, sorry about that. Does need to be able to read. Learning is about doing your own work and acknowledging the other's work. And at each of the assignments, you have this statement that when you are putting your work up through into the portal, into our learning management system, like ARC, which is Jude's going to tell you some more about soon, you are stating that you have done that you haven't borrowed, stolen, copied anybody else's work without saying, this belongs to somebody else, and I'm just quoting it, or I'm paraphrasing it, because work belongs to people, and if they've used their creative mind, we don't want to steal it. So we need to do justice to that. So there, I've written the definitions. It's probably a bit much to be reading tonight, but the idea in this that particularly plagiarism, and sometimes that word is thrown around, but in this university it's defined as the use by one person of another person's work as though it's their own. And so you can see that's like stealing somebody's work. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that. Oh, I just forgot to put quotation marks in. Oh, it was in better words than I thought. So often it's not intentional, particularly as people begin their studies. But the idea is to learn how to do it properly so that you pay due respect to the people who have created that. The same as if that was your work, you would want that to happen. Recycling doesn't get such a big rap sometimes, But recycling, you know, sometimes I think one of the hardest things that I learned as a student, which was not so long ago, was that if I had written something in an assignment previously, I couldn't just write the same thing in the next assignment. I couldn't just cut and paste, because I'm doing the same thing. I still have to acknowledge, or I need to rewrite it differently. I can't recycle my own work, and I can't recycle someone else's work. So those two things, yeah, by all means, have a look at those and pay attention when you're going to hand up assignments. There is a style guide, and I'm hoping Annalise might point out where we will find that in the university's style guide in the on the library hub. And there you'll find all the nitty-gritties for about footnoting and acknowledging sources. So it's on hand, and you can reach that through ARC as well, our learning management system. But that style guide will be also shown by your lecturers, and you can be directed to that as well. But sometimes things go wrong. We don't always expect things to happen, but we do have contingencies. So there are things like lecturers' extensions. That's your first port of call. You can know something's happened and I'm not going to get that in on time. Talk to your lecturer. I've fallen over, I've been called into extra work and I can't get that assignment done. Things that have interrupted, they're called a lockdown and I had to move place so I can't get finished. All sorts of things happen. So a lecturer can give you up to 2 weeks. After that, there's also a Dean's extension of up to 4 weeks. So that's either myself or Phil for postgrads. And their forms are available on the website, or talk to your lecturer and you'll find them. They're actually, I'm actually in ARC now, I think. Well, we were getting them even closer to the action. So the forms should be available now in ARC, in their student resources. And there's more. So the special grading consideration, now that is such an important thing, because consider that somebody has been all the way mostly through their semester and there's a death in the family, or they just caught COVID and they're in isolation or sick, and they need considerable more time and actually can't do the work now. What this is where this can come in handy, because we can just raise that for you and work out a plan for how you might finish that. So all of these things for unforeseen circumstances are there. So do not despair. Hopefully you will take this journey without such great upsets, but you can see the sort of support that you have along the journey for those things. Also a student support plan. If there's anything that impacts your ability to learn, or a disability, a mental illness, a physical incapacity, hearing disability, talk to myself or to Phil, the postgrad coordinator, and we can organise a student support plan. And those sorts of plans can adjust the sorts of assessment. They can have additional ways of doing things and learning within the class, within reason, in order that you can study without disadvantage. So if you need a student support plan, please talk to myself or to Phil. Student information on the CTC website is under the handbook and prospectus and student information. Please have a look on our website and have a browse through any of that. Please ask at your lecturers or any of the staff who you're in contact with that if you need further information. So enjoy your journey of learning with all of us. You can't know it all on your first day, but I hope by giving you a little bit of a view of some of the care and support and the opportunities for you to get started and to be helped on that journey. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosemary. Yes, I can't help but reiterate that for new students, that if you do get into any difficulties, speak to your academic dean or postgraduate coordinator early rather than late, and we'll do what we can to help. Okay, so I'm going to pass you over now to Mr. Jude Caspers, the Learning Support Coordinator at CTC. He's got a longish presentation because he's going to take you through the university's learning management system, ARC, and other learning resources that are available to CTC students. So over to you, Jude.
Thank you, John. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. I'll just share my screen. And as John and Rosemary mentioned, I've got a couple of roles. So I look after ARC, which we'll talk about, student services, the tutoring program, and the academic writing session. Just about the academic writing course or session, we have a full course at the start of every year, and that is recorded. That actually is available to you on ARC. There are 5 full sessions there for you to look at. In semester 2, we also run a single session, and that will be happening in week 2. So as soon as I receive your email details, I'll send this to you, and there is an online link that you can register for. The main focus for this one, because I find this is the main one that students are interested in, is the art of essay planning. So we look at the academic essay, how it's different to other pieces of work and the required parts and components, and analysing the essay question and tips for planning. And I will cover things like what Rosemary mentioned, such as referencing and other important essentials. So that date will be week 2. And it is on the, where's the date? August the 5th, on a Thursday. I've made it late because feedback from last year was that people may have other commitments or are working, but it will be recorded as well. So you'll be, it's much better to be there live, but if you can't, you can access it later. But please click on that link as soon as you receive that, if you're interested in coming. Tutoring is the other area I look after, and that's my email address. But it'll also be, I think most of you have received that in the ARC guide that you have already received. So we have a group of tutors. We have 3 tutors who are really eager and keen, but they're also very skilled and very experienced to help people who need assistance in, I suppose, it follows on and we work quite closely together. I coordinate their work, so I fill them in on what I cover in my academic writing course, and they back that up in their one-to-one tutoring. Other support we offer, sometimes there may be issues that you feel you need to talk confidentially to someone about. And we have a team of 4 people, 2 students. We have Michael and Anthony's here today, which is great tonight. And so 2 students, and we also have one of our librarians, Lisa, and myself. So we call that the peer liaison officer group, and we look at, we've all been sort of trained, had a PD session with the Human Rights Commission, and we look at areas such as harassment, discrimination, or grievances. But they sound very heavy, don't they? But also we're just there as trusted people on staff and fellow students. So you'll see their email addresses available on the pin boards around the, either in the common room or on the pin board, and you can take that off and you can actually just contact them confidentially. There might be something you just want to chat to them about, that something is concerning you, and they've been chosen, especially our students have been chosen because of their ability to listen and be empathetic to others. So I really encourage you that way. One of the things you notice when you look at studying at CTC or the University of Divinity is lots of different programs and titles, and one is Paradigm. What is Paradigm? It's just our education management system that Rose and Jenny will enter or have already entered your enrollment details, but you can access that as well. It's, as I said, it's where your enrollment is entered. It's a site where you can view your own enrollment details and access results. So at the end of every semester, John will alert all students that results are ready to be, and they're posted, and that's where you will access your results. The good news is the login is the same for ARC, the Library Hub, and Paradigm. Totally the same. So you only have to remember one login and one password. Paradigm, this is a sample. This is when I was studying CTC, done some courses here as well. So that's what it looks like. You can see your enrollment details such as that. And you can see when you enrolled or what units you've completed. This is not my own sample, this is someone else's, so they scored very, very well, all HDs. We like all our students to get HDs. And that's where your results will be posted at after John alerts you that they are available. Now, when you are enrolled in Paradigm, it automatically goes into ARC. There is a little bit of a delay. What is ARC? It's our online learning management system. Because we're Catholic, we're Christian, we like to call it ARC, something religious, but it's a good image because unfortunately it behaves like an ARC sometimes, or a bit of a ship, and we have often staff as well as students falling off the ARC. But don't fear, we've always got a lifesaver nearby. We can pull you back up and we can assist you, but it does happen from time to time. But the main thing is to keep your head above water as you travel on the ARC. And the main thing is really start exploring now. Use this opportunity before your assessments are due to look through ARC, get very familiar with it, and you can always have questions answered by contacting me. So some essential knowledge to keep you afloat with ARC as we travel. The ARC guide, I believe most of you have received our ARC guide. I've got an updated version to send you again. I'll send that with you with to you with the flyer. And just to explain to you what ARC is, for each unit you are enrolled in, there'll be at least one corresponding web page on ARC. And on this, lecturers can post resources, example readings, lectures and resources, could be podcasts, could be film clips, could be all sorts of things, depending on the type of unit and lecturer's creativity. So plus, you'll find portals through which assignments are lodged online. In the old days, when I was doing my undergraduate studies, I had to rush across Melbourne to hand in my assignment before 5 o'clock for the office closed, and I had to put it in the box. I'd be panting as I put it in. Now we just have to put it in online, which is much easier. But when you put it online, Rosemary mentioned that the portal we have, it's called Turned It In. It actually runs through a database, and that actually goes right across the world. I believe all universities, certainly most around the world, use Turned It In, and that actually checks your assignment for similarity. It gives you a similarity score to anything else that's on the internet, and that means other assignments that have been posted to other universities as well. You can see that on ARC by that icon, okay, a Turned It In icon link, and often you'll see lecturers would title it as assessment task or essay, but look for that icon. That's what tells you where the portal is to where you submit your assignment. Accessing ARC. Now there is a website address, and I'm going to take a little bit more time than I normally do this time because I've always mentioned and suggested for students to bookmark, but I noticed a lot of students weren't following that, and it's quite difficult to explain over the phone or by email. So I thought one opportunity I'll show to you now is it's visual and it'll be on recording, because surprisingly some students don't know how to bookmark. So whenever you go onto a website, you'll see a little white star there with a black border. And if you click that, it turns blue. And I've got an example there of the COVID site. So I haven't got that bookmarked. And that's what it looked like. You need to press save or done. The reason why I'm suggesting that you really do this is because a lot of students were depending on either the University of Divinity website or the CTC website to get into ARC. And when one of those sites were down, they lost access. So if you bookmark it, you go directly to that site. And it does happen. Unfortunately, our website does go off the screen sometimes. So that's what it looked like when you bookmarked it, and you'll get a icon like that. Much easier to get into than you want to make your process as quick as possible, don't you? So how do I log in? You have a username, and your username is just the email address that you supplied, as Jenny and Rose have entered into Paradigm. So that is your email address. No matter what other email address you use privately, that is the email address that we will use for communication, and that is your username. Very important that if you happen to change your email address and you want to change your username, you let Rose or Jenny know immediately. Otherwise, we'll get the information going somewhere else. Your password is automatically set to your day of birth and your month of birth in that format, plus the last 3 digits of your University of Divinity student ID. So for example, if your date of birth is 1st of 12, 1970, and your student number is 2013125543, there's a sample, your password would be 01 for first, and then / then December, and then, or 12 for December, and then your last 3 digits. So there it is for you. And that's on the ARC guide as well. Very important that you remember that /. It's not a backslash. It's not a slash. Sometimes people like to put it after their month. Your login will not work, and that's where a lot of problems arise. When you get into ARC, it'll offer you a welcome tour. If you haven't done that as yet, I suggest you do. You can always ask. There's I think a top left-hand corner. There's a button where you can have that again if you like to go through again. It's worthwhile. When you get into ARC, you need to know what to do if you get lost. And as Noah's telling us there, the dashboard is your home base. Okay, whenever you get lost, whenever you're not sure where you are, click the dashboard and it'll take you back to home base, such as we have here. You can see you can go directly to the library resources from ARC. And the most important thing, although it's not so big, is the unit overview. That's your gateway to your units. And you'll see even a smaller icon, I've enlarged it there for you to see, is the filter button. Okay, and that's where you find your units. Just make it bigger again. When you click the filter button, you've got a choice of folders in progress. So your units should now be there if you're starting within the next week. If you, this normally pertains to semester 1 students when you're enrolling. If you've enrolled in semester 2 units already, you'll have some future units. You probably won't have any at the moment. And past, your old units will stay there for a short period of time, but just be aware that all ARC units do leave the student's dashboard after a particular time. Normally it's about after a month after the unit has finished. So it's a good time it's always good to remember to take any resources, especially your lecturer's comments, because they give you a lot of trouble to give very constructive feedback. Make sure you download those before you lose access. And I suggest strongly that you use your favorites folder, or what we call starred. All you need to do, you'll see 3 dots after every unit that's displayed, and you just click that and it gives you the option to star this course. And that means you don't need to worry about the other folders. You just go to your starred folder and there's your current units to use. Now, I told you before that there are 2 websites for each unit, and it's good to explain this and get your head around this. It is a little bit confusing at first, but it's because we are a very dynamic university. In other universities I've had experience with, everyone who attended the class were from the same year level and the same field of study. So everyone got the same resource, and most ARC is based on what we call Moodle, which is a program that nearly all universities use. And there was only one unit to get to for each subject, and that was easy. But because we have a dynamic way of teaching, we actually have students from different levels. There might be, if you're an undergraduate student, you might come along to a biblical studies subject and you have actually postgrads there, or people doing research study or whatever. And this is the first time they've done that unit, but they're all from different levels of study. So that's why we have one meta unit, which is, as you can see, New Testament Greek A, that everyone in the class can access. And each level has a particular, what we call a child unit. It goes under there. You only need to have one child unit for each unit you do. I'll explain what that means. And a good way to remembering, because it is confusing. A lot of our staff forget it as well. But the word child unit starts with C, and so does the word code. So if it's got a code in front, it's a child unit. Okay, hope that helps. I was a primary school teacher in my past, so I like to find little ways of remembering. So there's the child unit. That tells you it's my child unit. And this is the parent unit. Notice it's got no code, and it's got the word meta unit. Meta starts with mother, and so is a parent. So meta unit is like our mother unit. Okay, so that should remind you of which one is which. Once you get the hang of it, it does get quite easy, and our students, our experienced students here today can confirm that. But this is how, after you've been studying for a while, your dashboard might look. It does get very busy, and that's why I encourage you to have a favorites folder. But there's an example of a child unit. And notice it's got a fairly long code, but it all means something. That 3 there, well, first of all, the BA means it's biblical studies. Is that right, Rosemary? Biblical studies field? Yes, I think Rosemary's saying yes.
Old Testament.
Old Testament, sorry. Old Testament. It's not OT, it's BA. Okay, that means Old Testament. But BS is biblical studies, so that's easier. The 3 stands for level 3. So it's undergraduate. If you are postgraduate, you might have an 8 or a 9. And the next code, that's C, and that's for CTC. So some of you might be studying units from other colleges. As the University of Unity, you are free to study units from all our other colleges, and they'll have other codes there or initials representing that college. And this is from last year's example, so that's why the 2020, but it was second semester because the 7 stands for start date in July. So if you're doing a semester 1 subject, it'll be 2021-3 for March, etc. Or intensives might have another subject. So that tells you a lot of information there. And again, the one with the code is the child unit. And you can see here, it's in the general way of our in progress folder. It's not really in any particular order. So the matching meta unit for this is right down here. So again, it's really important to star your units. And this is just an example of some of the meta units, what you might be able to see. You can see there's a podcast here, lectures kindly offered, lots of different links. So this is the parent or meta unit. And lots of those are links that you can click into and get to other sources. Maps also, it's a huge variety of resources that we have. So each of these are readings that your lecturer may leave for you to, and it's really good. You don't have to hunt around for them. There'll be PDFs. In the old days, we used to have handouts given, so now they're all available. And very important that you look out for this code. We call it the jigsaw puzzle piece. And that's where, especially in times of lockdown, where all our online courses will be. You might have different titles, up to your lecture to title that, but the main thing is the icon. You click that and you get to your list of Zoom classes, and they'll all be under different sessions. So that'll help you access your classes. Remember, if you have any problems, you contact reception, and Martin at reception or V are very good at contacting me, or they can help you immediately. If they can't, they'll contact me and I will give you a phone call to help you get that link and get access. Always good to join in about 15 minutes before, 10 minutes before the class starts, so you can make sure you've got a right connection. And just to give you some other examples, this is the child unit, what it might look like. Now notice the child unit holds all the assessment, because for each individual level in the class, we wouldn't want an undergraduate student to accidentally do a postgraduate assessment. So that's why we separate. That's why the child units are separate for each level. So those icons again shows you that there's something to submit, and you just simply click that and it takes you to the portal where you submit your assignment. This one has actually got an online forum, and these are used more often now when we are in lockdown, where the lecturers will give you a facility to have an online forum. Sometimes they could be informal, sometimes they may be out of class activities that you need to respond to a particular reading, or etc. Or sometimes the lecturer will use that as important information to go to all students. You can see this lecturer has used 2 of those forums. One's for announcements from the lecturer, and this one is for perhaps students to use. And of course, in the child unit now, there's the unit guide as well. So look out for that. And that gives you particular information, really comprehensive information the lecturer has provided on each child unit. We have it in the child unit because it really pertains directly to each assignment. And I want to talk to you about Turnitin a little bit before we go. So when Turnitin runs your assignment through, it takes about 15 minutes. This is a sample. Now, this is what the lecturer sees. They see all the submissions. You'll only see one row, of course, your own. But if it comes any later than the actual due date or due time, it goes in red, okay? Not that you're necessarily in trouble, but it just lets the lecturer know that it's been submitted and what time. So the time and date is recorded. There's the assignment submitted. And after about 15 minutes, first of all, it'll appear gray. Then your similarity score will appear. This one's got 10%. And you can see the blue actually tells you, it gives you an idea of what we call our heat monitors, okay? So 10%, 14%, fairly cool colors. Notice the 21% has got a different color. It's warming up a bit. 23%, and we can go to yellow, and it does also go to red. So that's orange and red. So we really don't want that at all. But students often ask me, Jude, what's the lowest number that I can have, or what's the highest number I can have before I get into trouble? And there is no answer for that. All we can say is keep it as low as possible if you can, but Turnitin is not human, and it does tend to err on the side of picking up any similarity at all. So unfortunately, sometimes our lecturers are well known around the world. They've published papers, so often their name will come up and that'll add to your score. So every time you mention the lecturer's name, some of your own names might turn up as well. Sometimes, which is very frustrating, even in your footnotes where you have referenced correctly, the whole reference to the particular source you've used will also appear and highlight. So don't despair if you see, you can see I've checked everything and I've still got 21%. The main thing is it's a guide. It's really what lecturers look at is not the number so much, unless it gets really warm colored, but they really look at what has been picked up in similarity, okay? And I'll talk about that in my academic writing course. I'll actually give you some samples of what gets picked up. So this is an idea when lecturers who correct online, they'll also mark the scores. You'll get the score there after a particular time, sometimes after 2 weeks or so, sometimes less, and that tells you your grade. But you can see in an interesting way that the score that students got here doesn't really relate to the similarity. So you can have a low score, such as this one, 36 out of 50. This one got 39 out of 50. For 23%. Okay, so don't despair. And I'll tell you, there's a really good device that's developed in ARC as well that can help you with that, which I will show you soon. And that's what we call CTC student resources, which are on your dashboard. We're very proud of this at CTC. Other colleges are now following suit and trying to have our idea, but it's a really good portal where you can see lots of resources, which is not a formal unit. That's what it looks like, ARC resources for students. And you'll see what I've got there is practice portals, because it is a little bit involved to get used to submitting your assignments. So I actually believe now there's 3 practice portals I've created there, A, B, and C. And you can choose anyone you like. You click that and you can submit your letter to your mum, your grandmother, if you like. No one else will see it. It's just, and you can see what similarity comes out. And you can practice that as much as you like. I really suggest that you do that. And for every assignment you do, I suggest you do that first. And that way, the similarity score does not affect your lecturer's unit at all. You do have lots of opportunity, though, to even use the lecturer's portal, which they've created in their unit, right up until due date. You can use that as well and resubmit as many times as you like. I find more and more students are using the practice portal, though, and then you can pick up your similarity. Sometimes you just may have forgotten to use the source or use quotation marks, whatever. It picks up things that you may not have realized, and you can go back and change it, and you can submit it again. The full instructions on how to use that. I've also provided an online practice link if you want to practice the jigsaw piece as well to go into your classes. Rosemary mentioned, and I don't want to take Annalise's line from it, but there's a direct link to the University of Divinity Style Guide there as well. So we try to pack it with as much information and resources as we can. This is just opening up the what we call below. So this part is often called the header section of a unit, and below that is our sections. And you can see we've got different categories there. And these are some things we've got there. Already we've got, I know it's on our website, but you've also got lectures extension and all sorts of things that you could use. The things that Rosemary mentioned are all there under academic forms. We've got academic resources. We're still building that as we go. And there's my academic writing course from semester 1. So you can go back to that if you like, and lots of resources there for you. And library resources, Kerry, our library manager, has asked me to put those in. So lots of, and these are direct links, lots of things that analysts can refer to later on. And we also put our orientation recording here. So that's semester 1, and tonight will be there as well if you want to come back to any information we've talked about. So in closing, where can I go if I need help? If you fall off ARC or anything happens at all, as I just want to reiterate what Rosemary said before, don't despair. We're here to help you. For ARC issues, my details are on the ARC guide. It's always probably email is best, especially in these times. And Chris, my colleague who's next door to me, he's also available and I'm not available to help you with ARC issues. Just want to thank you very much for your attention.
Jude, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Just about the password. Am I right to say it's your day of birth and your month of birth, and you put a 0 in front of each?
Yes, if it's a single digit.
The last 4 letters of your student number.
Last 3 letters.
3 letters.
Yeah.
With one.
Last 3 numbers. Yeah.
So I would be 05 forward.
You probably don't want to give your password to everyone, but I can help you individually if you like. And I'll note your name down, Julian. I'll contact you and I can help you privately. Would that be better?
No,
okay.
You made it clear, I think.
Sure. And the archive I'll email to you directly, but if you have any issues at all, just email me rather than giving your password out to everyone. I think it's a much safer way to go, but I'm more than happy to help you. Have you received the ARC guide as yet?
No.
Not yet. So that'll be emailed either tonight or tomorrow. So you'll get that. And that'll be in PDF form. And also the ARC guide will be available for you to pick up when we are out of lockdown. You can go pick up a hard copy on the book stands as well. Thanks, Julian. Veronica.
A student number. I'm not sure I've got one, or which piece of paper that might be on that I've received.
I think Rose and Jenny, might be best if Rose or Jenny respond to that.
Thank you.
They're both on mute though.
Yes,
Jennifer.
sorry, Veronica. Yes, I emailed you your enrolment summary and a welcome letter earlier this week. Both of them have your student number on there. But I'll email it to you again tomorrow.
You sent me 3 documents. Okay, I'll talk with you tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, that'll be probably easier.
Okay, thanks, Jude. That was extremely comprehensive. So look, we might move right along now to the library. Annalise Day is going to give us a talk about the library. And so over to you, Annalise.
Thank you, John. I mean, we've just had a bit of a information overload. I'm the information services librarian. So as part of my job description to give you information, I will try to keep it to a minimum though. So we're not here for all night. So if I can just share my screen, I'll do that. Alrighty. Now, so I'm just going to give you a little overview of Mannix Library and the Library Hub, because, well, it's the main things that you'll be using, especially online, because we can't be in person at the moment. These will be the best resources for you. So normally we're upstairs at CTC, but in absence of that, you can hop online to mannix.org.au, and that's the library's website. I'll just draw your attention to a few things that are on here. So if you're on Facebook, if you're wanting to keep updated with any of the closures or if we've got any events happening, the link here it's there for you to use. So if you want to keep updated, it's one way to go. And then other things that we've got here that are probably standouts. There's a link to some frequently asked questions. We've got the guide here, which is a little bit of information about Mannix Library. And we've got the staff emails there. So if you're wanting to email one of us, our emails are all there. And just sort of services we provide, photocopying, scanning, and the like. And then also what we've got here is the search bar. This will take you to the library catalogue. So if you're wanting to look through any resources, you just type in the title or an author or just a word that your book you're after, and this will take you to the catalogue. And the catalogue, minus the scribbles that are on my screen here, it'll look something like this. And for the staff, this will look a little new to what you're used to, but you know, it's a bit of learning for everyone. So when you hop onto the catalogue, just pay attention to this left side here. It will give you filters to filter through and narrow your search down. So if you're wanting to find a book that's just at Mannix Library, then you can just click on this filter here and it will make the results list so that you can just see what's in Mannix. But those of you who are just working from online, the best thing to do is to keep this filter on libraries worldwide, and then under the format option, click ebook. And the reason for that is because we have access to a lot of open access items online. And if they're open access, they are available to everyone worldwide. So yeah, if you're looking for an ebook, keep it worldwide. If you're looking for a physical book, then you can choose the library that you're going into when that happens. So yep, I'll talk a little bit about that later as well. Next thing, hours. Again, this doesn't really affect anyone at the moment, seeing as we can't go into the library. But normally, if there's classes on, we're on. That's the rule of thumb. We're open Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. But if there are night classes on, we're open till 7. And then some Saturdays, we're open 10 till 3 if classes are on that day. So just a reminder. And if there are any closures or anything, or public holidays, they'll be listed here. So that's, again, up on the hours bar on Mannix's website. Borrowing books, you can borrow up to 20 items for 3 weeks if you're a coursework student. If you are doing research, HDR student, you can borrow up to 25 items for 10 weeks. So make use of that. It's a wealth of knowledge that we've got at the library. And again, doesn't really matter because no one can go in. Wow. Yeah, so if you're coming in, we can only, you can't borrow from the reference or the course reserve section. And the course reserves are obviously all the items your lecturers have listed that are required text for your units. But not to fear, I will come back to that as well. Return chutes, again, when you come in, there's one located at the front of the library and there's one located at the front library desk. So they're there. And if you're wanting to renew your items, you can do that by giving us an email or giving us a call. Or if you don't feel like talking to us because for whatever reason you don't feel like talking to us, that's fine, I won't take it personally. You can create your account via the Mannix Library website as well. So there's this little, if none of your videos are covering the icon here, up the top right of Mannix Library, there's a My Account icon. And so this, I'll just make it clear here, this is not the same as your ARC login. This sometimes does get people confused. So if it says anywhere, if it says sign in, this is not your ARC. This is purely just your library login. So when it asks for your barcode, that is your student number. And when it's your first time using your library account, you'll just have to click this set reset password, and that will set a password for you. It'll send you an email, type in whatever password you'd like, write it down so you don't forget, and then away you go. So this account, it can show you how to, well, You can place items on hold if you would like. You can renew your items here, or you can just see what books you have out on loan. What else have I got here? And then back to course reserves. Sorry, I'm rushing through it because I don't want to take up too much time. So course reserves, this is a very handy button that is on the Mannix website, and I encourage everyone to look at this if you're wanting to look through resources for your particular unit. So basically, it will show up the list of all the course units that are offered that semester. And if you click on your unit, it will show up with all the books that are on the course reserves. And the beauty of this is it saves you having to manually go through and search in every book title. And then you can just click on the title and it'll show you if there's an alternative copy, or otherwise we have this little ebook button will come up to show you that we have that available as an e-copy. So when you're working online, that's fantastic if there's an e-copy, and otherwise, yeah, there'll be other copies in the library. Most times there should be. If there's not, I'll fix that. Now, the most important probably button on the Mannix Library website is actually this Library Hub button. This takes you to the the University of Divinity's online resource hub. So this is where the bulk of your e-resources are located. So again, this will take you to the catalogue. If you're searching in a book or an article, pop it in here. It will give you the catalogue, and again, use those filters on the side, on the left-hand side, to narrow down your search. I'm wondering if I should actually go to the website here just to show you all sort of what's available. But basically, up here is your menu bar for all the accessing things. The About obviously gives you information about the Library Hub and what libraries are accessible, obviously, because we're the University of Divinity and with all the colleges, it gives you a bit of information there. The Find and Access bar will give you a list of databases like JSTOR or Oxford. So there's a wealth of information there if you'd like to go through them. Journals is also there too. Guides, this is handy if you don't want to, if you've zoned out from listening to me already, this is the place to go. The Library Hub guide is located here, and it looks a little something like this. So basically, once it's all updated, we're in the process, it's almost done. You can pop in here, there'll be videos, there's little sort of tutorials showing you, how to navigate around the Library Hub, which is very useful. So if you've forgotten something or you just sort of blanked out, this is the place to go. The searching will show you how to use the filters. And yeah, if there's a lot of questions that you'd be surprised, a lot of questions that you have will be on this FAQs list, because they are, we get them a lot. So if it's not on there, you can send me an email, or there's the Ask a Librarian chat, which will be on the Library Hub homepage here. So don't be afraid to ask. That's absolutely fine. I will not hound you for it if you ask a question. And then also we've got the style guide, as Jude mentioned. We have a link to that also under this guides button here, and it will give you referencing tools. If you're feeling brave and tech savvy, we have access to EndNote. But again, if you're feeling tech savvy, I'd probably recommend that one, because it can be a little bit confusing to get your head around, but we have tools there to use. What else? We've got special collections, we have news there. Yeah, I think they're probably the main things. They're the main things to take out of the Library Hub website. And we will be doing orientation sessions for everyone. It'll probably be during a lunch session. We haven't sort of confirmed them with, lockdown being as it is, but we'll be sending out an email for sure with a little bit of information of all the things that I've sort of talked about briefly. But yeah, the best advice I have is just hop on the Library Hub or Mannix and just play around. I think that's probably the best advice, because the more you click, the more you'll find out of how to use things. So I'll leave it at that, I think.
Okay.
And I'm sorry if that was too fast. My apologies.
No.
Speeding through.
You take it either way, but I think it was very kind of you to make it short. But the thing is that we've actually saved the best till last, because so far you've had a whole bunch of information, and we're going to finish off with some experience, just for a bit of a different idea. So we've got two students with us tonight, two current students. The first is Jessica Parsons. So I'll hand you over to Jessica now. She'll give you a talk about her experience at Catholic Theological College. Thanks, Jessica. And you'll need to unmute.
Thanks, John. Well, I started studying in the second semester, 2018, but actually the first unit I did was an online unit, and through Trinity, which was interesting, but I wanted to see how I would go with university studies, and because I live in regional Victoria, I just wanted to make sure that I could do it. And as it turns out, it was one of the best things I'd ever done. And so I started at CTC in 2019, and I was very, very nervous about studying at university. I'd never done it before. And so actually the whole experience has been pretty incredible. I've got some points here to talk about. So I found everyone quite extraordinarily friendly, actually, and very approachable. And it was wonderful always to be able to go to Rosemary and just really ask. I had a lot of questions about how to do things. It always seemed that it was, you could never ask too many questions. I was always met with, a lot of information and guidance, and that was very, very helpful for me. I think if you're at university as a sort of a late starter and a mature age student, or if you've been away for a long time and you're coming back, that sense of being very guided is really fantastic, actually. One of the things that I did need a lot of help with was essay writing, which was something I found quite daunting, especially, reading theological texts and scholars, and having to sort of look at the Bible in a very different way to the way that I had been brought up to look at it, and also used to looking at it. Writing essays and doing sort of biblical interpretation, things like that, was actually extremely intimidating to begin with. But again, I never felt that I couldn't contact a lecturer and say, look, I'm really not understanding this. How do I get my head around this? So I guess one of the more challenging things for me was to learn how to think critically and about Bible texts, and how to formulate an argument, how to interpret an essay question, and how to get back from getting myself in a muddle about that, which I often did. And again, just having a very reassuring sense that I could just email or sort of reach out and say, look, I've completely lost the plot with this, what do I do? And have reading redirected, and that was also very useful to me, because academic reading is very, very different too. So so there's a note about class sizes, and they really have varied. My first classes, when I did Biblical Worlds and Biblical Interpretation, Introduction to Catholic Theology, and the Gospel of Matthew, the classes are quite big, but I've just been doing New Testament Greek this year, and there's only been 2 of us in the class. So it's a little bit like having private tuition. So in all those varying class sizes, one of the wonderful things has been the discussions that's taken place during the breaks. It's been fantastic as a layperson to study with seminarians and religious, and to get that perspective where you don't often have that close-up perspective with people who are undergoing their formation as religious, and that's actually a really valuable, precious thing for a layperson to have. And interestingly, you know, theology, even though you do need academic skills, and you need to really work hard at acquiring them, because that's the sort of the mechanic you're applying to your studies. The thing I've never lost sight of is that we are studying the Word of God, and so that's very different to other sort of academic studies, and so it's not just a sort of academic inquiry. It's also, you know, I think about it, we're seeking the God who loves us, and that's what I think making theology, it makes studying theology very different from any other type of study. And that also ties into, I think, you know, all the lecturers here, they want you to draw, everyone wants you to draw closer to God. That's why the university exists. So, and so just keeping that in mind all the time, and not worrying too much about getting too overwhelmed with essays, you know, always trying to do the very best you can do, but remembering that the aim of the game is faith. It's a deepening of faith, and that has been really useful for me. The getting around ARC was scary at first, but it's actually not that bad. It's pretty easy to get used to, and so is the library. I actually find the online library was a bit easier to use than the physical library, because there's so many books in the physical library that you end up, you know, pulling off 5 books that you're actually got nothing to do with your essay, but, you know, they have interesting titles and you can get a bit lost. So yeah, it's very easy to forget about time in the actual library. And I could find that I could be a little inefficient that way, but, you know, that's okay. What else? I don't think there is, well, actually, so the amount of time I spend on my studies, I only do 1 unit a semester, and I learn quite slowly, so I do spend a lot of time on that unit during the week. But some of the study skills I've picked up is to be really super organized. So before I've started a unit, I've had all my weekly folders on my physical folders and on my desk. I've been through and titled folders with all the assessment tasks, and just making sure that, you know, when I'm reading and I'm taking notes, I'll put the first footnote, second footnote, and bibliography at the top of the page I'm taking notes on, and then I always put the page number next to the note, so that it just speeds things up at the end, so that you can manage things, you know, a bit more easily. I found all the referencing and bibliography incredibly hard, but happily I'm getting less corrections in my essays now than when I started, so that's a good thing. And the last little point was how studying theology has enriched my life. And the reason I started to study theology was because I felt like I'd sort of reached a point in my life where I was being called to listen to God in a very deliberate and intelligent way. And that studying theology is a type of listening to God, that deep seeking. And I wanted to understand the faith. So I wanted to understand what I believed, because, you know, as a layperson, you do just have a sort of very, you know, general, I suppose. Well, I had a very sort of general idea of the teachings of the church. And I also wanted to be able to write in a very direct way about faith. I wanted to be able to share the beauty and the mercy of the church with people who don't think that there's any beauty or mercy in Catholicism. I wanted to be able to share the goodness and the beauty and the truth of our church. And most of all, I think studying theology has just made me a better wife. It's made me a better mother. And it's made me, it's made me a better person in many, many ways. It's made my faith stronger, deeper, richer, and more real. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. That was inspiring. It was lovely. So our last talk is from another student, and that's Ianthe Pereira. Ianthe is an international student, and she's actually a member of a religious community as well. So she'll have a slightly different perspective. So Ianthe, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I hope everyone can hear me. So I'm Ianthe. I'm originally from Sri Lanka. I came to Australia in 2014 to join the Missionaries of God's Love Sisters. So I've been in the Sisters for 8 years now, and I've been a student at CTC for nearly 4.5 years. So I'm doing theology and ministry studies at CTC. So my journey to in coming to Australia and to join the Sisters and to CTC as an international student had been a very adventurous one because after high school, my plans to join a religious congregation didn't work out as I planned. So in the end, I started doing a degree in management accountancy. I thought worst come to worst, it'll help me in running our family business, if nothing else. So I started studying and then started progressing quite a bit with those studies, and started working as a research analyst first at the age of 23. And then when I was 25, I received a training as a management trainee, and then got employed in an international organization as a project analyst. And I thought my original desire to become a religious is getting a bit, getting lost in the way, and I feel like God is directing me to corporate world. Maybe that's where He's leading me. And suddenly when I was working maybe about 2 weeks as a project analyst, I feel like strongly the Lord is telling me to leave the job and join a congregation. And I was like, this can't be right, because I tried all my life. Like I tried even at 16, at 19, at several stages to join in Sri Lanka. But then all those efforts were failed because the sisters didn't want me at a very young age. So I thought this couldn't be right after I felt like I was so established in the corporate world and got where I wanted to get in my work. I thought it couldn't be right that the Lord is calling me at that age. And then but I felt confirmed. I was very convinced that that was where He's calling me. And then the question arose as to where I could join. So part of being a research analyst, I learned to do lots of research, so go into lots of websites, and I use that knowledge to search for religious organizations, religious congregations. And then Missionaries of God's Love was one of the things that I searched online. And also I got to know about this congregation through a lay community. So I ended up applying online, and without even a come and see, without any way of really looking into this religious order, I just came straight to join. I just trusted that that's where God is calling me. So I first came to Canberra in 2014, and then I came to Melbourne in 2017 and started studying at CTC. So far, it's been a great journey of being a missionary, and also studying at CTC has been very encouraging, because in my previous studies, I've never had to write an essay, and didn't use a lot of language. Everything had to be so precise and shorter the better kind of thing in when you were working in facts and figures in as an analyst particularly. So I found it very encouraging coming into CTC that the lecturers supported me so much in getting used to writing essays, and also I found a great sense of belonging in CTC, and also all the units that I've studied in theology, in pastoral care, in spirituality, or in bioethics. All those units had helped me greatly in my ministry, especially ministries to women in prison. I worked as a volunteer in the Youth Justice Center in the last couple of years. So in all those ministries, all my studies had been helpful, and also it's been life-changing. Some of the encounters I had with people, the knowledge that I could share had been life-changing for some. So I really hope that at the end of my studies, all this knowledge could be greatly helpful as a full-time missionary one day. And also I just want to encourage all of you to use this time of study well, and especially when you have to do your class readings. It will benefit you if you do the readings and come to classes, and when you have to do group discussions, it will be helpful if you've done your readings, and there's the opportunity to ask questions, and from the lecturers they could give you feedback, and also the staff are very helpful, so you can ask any questions from the librarians or any other staff. And when I was doing online studies, I found it very methodical and organized. Online studies were really good last year when we were in lockdown, and there were great resources as well. The lecturers provided lots of online resources, so if you have any questions and anything, even with finding resources, please contact your lecturers and even some of the staff here. So I wish you all the very best in your studies at CTC. God bless.
Thank you very much, Anthony. That was great. Okay, now I think it's really time we need to go, because we've gone way over time. So if you've got any questions, Jude is going to email you all tomorrow, and so you'll have his email address in your email, so you can send Jude questions, and he will send them to the right person to be answered. I think we should spend a minute talking about what semester is going to look like. And because we don't really know, we think it's possibly going to be online for a couple of weeks. Rosemary, have you got any thoughts about how that might look?
I think should ask the master.
So yes, clearly we will start online. I'll make some communication to everybody about this later tonight or tomorrow morning. So next week, obviously, we'll be online, and we'll be online until the health restrictions allow us to do on site those things that would normally happen on site. But I don't know when that will be at this stage.
Thanks, Kevin. And Rosemary, like everybody else, we're like everything else at this time. We're playing everything by ear and waiting for the government announcements. Okay, so on behalf of everybody here, I'd like to thank the presenters for all those words of wisdom, and thank you all for coming, for giving up an hour and a half of your evening. Hope you have a lovely evening. Welcome to CTC, and I hope you have a very successful educational career while you're with us. Thank you very much, and good night.